Hey, welcome once again to the Old Cow Report. Of course, I'm your host, Chuck Lee, and with me is as usual, is my rusty, trusty sidekick, Fred, the true staffer. And Fred, how you been?
Howdy doody.
Glad to see you again, and I heard you've been down there at the mausoleum staying nice and cool today, in air-conditioned comfort.
You did hear that, huh?
Yeah, that's what I heard. You was in air-conditioned comfort down there.
That's not true.
Down there, and you stayed cool all day. Well, we're glad to have you with us, Fred, on this balmy October 6th, 1997, in beautiful downtown Eau Claire, Wisconsin, right here at the Tire Factory and Hamburger Joint. And Fred, you been back there grinding any meat today?
No.
Okay, great. Glad to hear it. All right. Well, over the weekend we had a little election, and on Saturday, and a few thousand people turned out. Something like a little under 12,000 people turned out, Fred, and you were one of them, Fred. You went and voted over the weekend for this $39 million so-called school referendum.
Yes.
What did you think about it, and how'd you vote?
Well, I voted against it.
Oh, how come?
I figured we could save some money by not voting for it.
Well, that's a good analogy. It would save a little bit of money there. And I think, Fred, maybe it was just a matter of...
$39 million.
Yeah, that's what it was a matter of.
Yeah.
And some change.
Yeah.
And, of course, to the big shots there, wheeling and dealing, they think that's just chump change. But to the lowly taxpayer out there, Fred, not everyone makes $100,000 a year.
I know.
A lot of people struggling to make 10, 12, 14,000, 15,000 a year.
When I ran for the city council back about 10 years ago, I found out there are a number of people who are thinking of moving because of the taxes or did move because of the taxes and living in low-income housing.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and they said they'd rather be in their own house, but they couldn't afford to stay there anymore.
Well, this was beat back soundly, something like 60 to 40%. Once again, it was ill-conceived. It was set up on some weekend retreat, and they cut their deal and decided that they were going to be able to run this thing through on a Saturday. I think that was their first mistake, deceiving the voters by changing the date for an election. And their deception worked 5 years ago, but this time the voters were ready for them, and they weren't so easily fooled. A lot of people went to vote absentee this time, or made sure that they closed down their cabins, or went and looked at the trees changing color, or whatever they had to do, but they made sure they got to vote before they left town or went traveling. But Fred, there was one person that took a lot of heat over this school referendum. I'm not speaking about the school superintendent, Lee Hansen, because he's been in hot water for years. But this guy's name was Dennis Berry, and he stood up to Goliath and pulled out a few stones and put him in his little slingshot and knocked off old Goliath there.
Yeah.
And with one big stone, knocked him right to the ground, hit him right between the eyes. And we've got Dennis Berry with us tonight here, and we wanted to get his, on the telephone that is, we wanted to get his opinion on how you saw the election on October 4th. Dennis, are you with us?
I sure am, Chuck.
Glad to have you on the show tonight here. And of course you were with us about 2 weeks ago on a Monday night, and we went over some of the components of the school referendum. And so did you get a chance to vote, and what did you think about the results?
Yeah, I certainly did. I was out Saturday afternoon after my son's football game, and my wife and I went out there to Locust Lane, and they had a pretty good turnout. And we voted the way we hoped it would go. It was pretty exciting, actually, to see the even though the turnout was low, the percentage was in our favor. And again, that's just unfortunate that some of the things that need to be done aren't going to be done because of their wishful thinking and their high hopes. But it's always good to win. I mean, that's what we worked for. We had a lot of people working on this, and we were successful.
Well, from what I understand, the Yes Group was making phone calls for several weeks before the actual election on Saturday, and they put out literature and I think the one thing where they made a mistake was this yellow flyer that anybody that reads the Leader Telegram had fall out of their newspaper on Friday night when they opened up their Leader Telegram. And that looked like it personally attacked you, Dennis. Did you have a chance to read this flyer that was in probably somewhere between 30 and 50,000 newspapers?
I actually got a call from a Leader Telegram employee who was, working the line there, inserting that it kind of gave me a little bit of a heads up. I wasn't really concerned about it. I couldn't imagine, what their last shot would be, their last ditch effort there until we kind of get our paper early here out in the rural area, and my wife called quite upset, couldn't believe that, I was so popular to these people that they had to assumingly take out the big guns and waste the last of their money that they had to insert something like this. And I tell you, my phone never rang as much as it did Friday and Saturday with people who do know me, and people who don't even know me, who respected the fact that I was able to stand up to Mr. Hansen and the Yes Committee, and to see that in the paper there, basically a personal attack against me and my so-called small group. But, I'm not even sure it backfired on them. It was kind of disappointing. It did get, a few people's ire up. But, they didn't play fair. They weren't honest. They come up with a lousy proposal, and what they're forgetting is that this is bigger than me, Chuck. I went to the polls. I'm just one vote. This thing died by 2,400 votes. So it certainly, I might have had played a part in getting people, a little bit more information. And but like the Leader Telegram said this evening, you're supposed to respect your opponent, not try to take them down. So we worked a little bit extra harder on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. I took a lot of time. Saturday, still handing out flyers, and Sunday we fielded a lot of phone calls, congratulatory ones at that.
Uh-huh. Well, there was an article in the Leader Telegram on Sunday's paper, and it had an interview with Lee Hansen getting his opinion on why the referendum went down to defeat 60% to 40%. And his first comment was people obviously weren't interested in what we had proposed. Well, that's obvious, and it was obvious from the beginning because the rank and file taxpayers of the city were not brought into the process. This was another one of their sweetheart referendums that they thought they could just push through, and they wanted to get it through before we got into the holiday season, and they wanted to hold it on a Saturday to kind of trick people, and I think those things backfired against him. But he goes on to say, I'm shocked, I'm disappointed, I'm discouraged. I had no idea this would be defeated, and that it would be defeated by this margin. Well, I'm sure he probably thought it wouldn't be defeated because of the thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money that the school district used to promote their one side of the issue. Now, didn't you feel like when I said earlier there, David and Goliath? I mean, your own tax dollars were being used against your group and other taxpayers to try and push this thing through. Did you think that was fair?
No, but it actually spurred us on a little bit more. We knew we were David fighting Goliath, but I'm able to rally people, and I'm able, I consider myself, a good leader, and we knew the way what their approach was, and we actually went the opposite way. We knew throwing money at the problem, throwing money at the issue like they seem to do. I mean, whether it's their referendum or whether it's the way they, politically take on the fact that just throwing money at a problem is not going to do it. We had a budget they'll be real happy to hear of, basically less than $700 we took on these guys. And we passed out thousands and thousands of brochures with information that we thought was as accurate as we could come up with. But, if Hansen was shocked and disappointed and discouraged, well, then we're just completely the opposite because, we went to the meetings, we tried to give them our message all along. But, far be it from the upper half of 1% to listen to the remaining 99. It'll never happen, but he's going to have to start to realize that he's going to have to start asking us before he comes with these lousy proposals, or he's going to feel like beaten boy if he comes back again.
Well, the Leader Telegram played a big part in trying to woo the public into voting for it, showing pictures of crowded gymnasiums at Boyd School, and then it was day after day. I think they started the Sunday before the election and ran pretty much every day. They had front page articles and two separate editorials pushing the voters in, saying that we need this. Oh my God, the poor children. But I still haven't got the exact figure, but if you take the total school budget and the amount of students we have in the district, and you divide one into the other, it's one of the best financed school districts in the state as far as per student amount of money that each student has for their education. I'm sure it's up there between $5,000 and $7,000 per student, somewhere in that range. I don't have the exact figure, but by no means are the students in this school district being treated poorly, and I think the taxpayers and the voters are seeing past them dangling the poor students in front of our noses and saying, oh, we've got to do it for the children.
Sure.
And as a matter of fact, I'm looking at the enrollment projections, and I think we brought that up on the show last week or 2 weeks ago. It shows the elementary enrollment projections going from 5,034 students down to 4,743, about a drop of 300. So they wanted to build elementary schools into a declining enrollment, so by the time that the schools were finished being built and ready to be occupied, there'd be 300 less students. It didn't make sense.
No, I agree, and I think the Leader Telegram, from what I understand, is going to be up for some sort of award for orchestrating that picture of the band in the hallway. I think there should be some sort of Academy Award or something for the acting job on that part. That was, I think, above and beyond the Call of Duty there. That must have took some real orchestrating, so to speak, excuse the pun.
The other one was the Boyd School there, where they brought Ronald McDonald in, brought every student in the school in there and shoved them all into the schoolroom, got all the teachers and everybody could get in there, and then they get a nice tight shot of it to make it look like it's crowded. Well, of course it's going to be crowded when Ronald McDonald shows up.
Sure. And the funny thing about that is, Chuck, that even the Boyd School District, the Boyd area, they seen this proposal was a crock, and they even voted it down. They were the ones going to benefit the most. They even voted a resounding no on this issue. So, it was ill-conceived from the minute it hit, from the minute it left that resort, wherever they were, and it didn't have a chance.
Well, another thing is, Dennis, I think they didn't explain this $1 million land buy more. And I've talked to realtors since that came out that they were going to spend $1 million for land. And one realtor flatly told me that there's no land in Eau Claire worth $1 million.
No.
I mean, you'd have to buy several thousand acres to come up with $1 million, unless they're going to buy prime real estate like London Square Mall and bulldoze it over and put a school there.
Well, not very many toilets cost $10,000 either, but the government sure seems to buy a lot of those as well. So when you don't actually have to come up with the money yourself to write the check like you and I do, it's so simple to tell someone, hey, name your price. Whatever, I've got this X amount of dollars, we can spend up to this amount. We know it's only worth $400,000, but we're prepared to give you $1 million. There's just no common sense out there, and I think it's time we get a little common sense on these government committees and these government boards, whether it be city council, county board, or school board. We need this representation. We need to hold these people accountable. And, Eau Claire needs a change so we can go forward. Right now we cannot or will not or ever be able to go forward with these people we have drafting these proposals and these special referendums.
Well, keeping this out of here and the arena out of here and so-called needed space in the library, these things have actually saved the taxpayer money, and I don't see where anyone's really been hurt so far. And it's not that the taxpayers don't want to have a nice city to live in. Heaven knows we pay enough taxes, and anyone knows that owns a $75,000 house, you're paying a couple $1,000s a year in taxes, and a big hunk of that goes to the school districts, and another big hunk goes to the city and the county. And I think the thing is that people have just got to the point where they said, it's enough. Give us a breather. Let us have a rest here. Let us catch up.
Let us get that special assessment paid off.
Yeah, that special assessment with sidewalks to nowhere. Well, you know, what do you think's going to happen now? You think they're going to go and regroup and have another one of their steak and egg weekends and then come back with a modified version, or what?
Well, they're meeting as we speak right now to discuss that. And, you know, again, with them being the way they are, I guess it's really hard to come up with any sort of idea. You know, I have someone I know that's at the school board meeting, and I'm sure I'll hear a little bit about it this evening. But, I mean, who knows? Technically, with the help of the city council, they could come right back next month with a different proposal. I mean, it's just hard to say. But, you know, I'm hoping they do come back in April, possibly with some of the, you know, possibly just the elementary school needs, and realize that people just aren't going to foot the bill for anything other than just the basic needs of the community. And even the basic needs, you know, the way we build things now, or, you know, it's still a luxury compared to what you and I had when we went to school. So, you know, they've got to cut out the fluff and get down to business, and, you know, let's get on with it.
Well, you know, you look at the results here, and there was very few precincts where it actually did carry.
5, and only a couple of them were by, you know, any sort of margin. The third ward, where, of course, money is no object.
Mm-hmm. But I see they're worried about how the lease with the university expires at the end of 2000 to 2001. By then, they're going to have over 200 less students in the elementary schools. And of course, that is just projections. It could drop even further than that. Or, you know, it might stay stable. But I think they counted their chickens before they hatched. They spent a lot of taxpayers' money to promote this thing. They had several front groups that were making phone calls from area realtors' offices. They had this front group here that put out this propaganda piece all over the place. They had this front group here called the Leader Telegram that published article after article, week after week, day after day, pounding it into our heads, brainwashing us. Yes, we need this. And they had their little propaganda pieces here where they attacked you personally. This was by the Youth Education Support Committee, Charles Grossglaus, treasurer. And then they had another propaganda piece here that...
That's funny how the guy who's the treasurer of the group that put out that propaganda that slandered me happens to be the president of my bank, for crying out loud, my Royal Credit Union. You know, I don't understand how he can be involved in some of these things that he is, chairman of the board.
Well, you figure it. Money talks, and you got to follow. Rush Limbaugh said many years ago, follow the money.
Yeah.
And of course, this is going to be a money thing here. This would have greased a lot of area palms, and but here's another propaganda piece that cost several thousand. Now, I think I talked to you, and you said you made a phone call and asked them how much it cost to send out this piece, and they gave you just kind of a off-the-cuff rough estimate?
Right, I think that was, yeah, it was just not even hardly off the cuff. It was just off the top of someone's head that was just making a guess. It was nowhere near accurate.
It was several $1,000s is what I get.
That was close to $3,000, but I think that might have just included the first printing. Certainly they had to make more because I come home with my students 3 times. It came in my mailbox twice.
Yeah, they said here that you lied about that, but I know these were scattered all over the place.
They were at every grocery store, every countertop. They came in my mailbox and mailings twice. I got like 3 of them, 2 different occasions.
Yeah.
My children brought them home.
And this was supposed to be an unbiased sheet, but
Sure.
they didn't ask any of the opponents to put in their half of it. So as far as I'm concerned, in a political election, this would have been an outright illegal way of campaigning.
Sure.
Because you're taking taxpayers' money to promote your side of an issue. And in politics, that just doesn't float. And this was a political issue. And I don't care if they try to make it look like it's not, it is. Because a lot of people stand to gain on this, but many, many more people stand to lose on this. In some cases, their actual houses would have been lost because it would have been the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people that are just struggling by on 12, 14, 16,000 a year.
I couldn't agree more.
And it doesn't go very far these days. So, what's next now, Dennis? That's 3-0.
3-0, yes. We are making progress here. Well, I'm going to take myself a little vacation with my lovely wife here, and we're going to try not to worry about things as they are here in Eau Claire, and we're going to come back and take a look at some changes possibly in our form of local government here, both at the city level and the school board level. I think we need to get back to district representation, hold these people accountable, even if it's by neighborhood, by block. But right now, again, the money talks, and follow the money. I mean, if you've got the money to put into a TV campaign, a radio ad campaign, you can buy your seat, without walking the sidewalks, without meeting the people. You just get on TV, you get on the radio, tell all your good stories, and next thing you know, you're making laws and allowing special referendums. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we should concentrate on next. I would very seriously look for a referendum coming up in the April 1998 election, changing at least one of the forms of government in Eau Claire, if not both, school board and city council, and I think that'll allow us to start making progress again here in Eau Claire, get some sensible minds, make sensible laws, and putting forth sensible referendums so we can continue to go forward and approve some of these things that maybe we really do need.
Yeah, what happened to the old progressive style of politics in Wisconsin? Progressives, we were able to afford it instead of this run 10 steps forward and see how deep you can get everyone in debt, and then run 3 steps forward and then 1 step forward and then run 10 again, and just so that the taxpayers are just almost at an outright running pace just to keep up with the taxes. It's time to give us a breather, and I think we've gotten one here finally now.
We've got them thinking now. They definitely, with this, the library was a little bit of a setback for them. They never thought that would be defeated, and it was a pleasure, turning back that $200 square foot addition. But we're just going to sit back and we're going to see. They know who we are now, and they know what we're capable of. But I think people are sick of hearing me, Chuck, so let's hear these other people's phone calls.
Well, thanks a lot for your hard work there, and I know you work day and night, and sometimes it looks pretty lonely when you're out there doing that. And
especially when yellow pieces of paper are falling out of your newspaper.
I almost expected something like that, but when it fell out, it did kind of surprise me that it did. But they had to have a boogeyman, and they tried to make it you, but the boogeyman was the $39 million.
Yeah, it sure was.
Well, thanks a lot, Dennis, and keep up the good work. Have fun on your holiday.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, what do you think about that, Freddie?
Well, I thought that the people voted right.
Well, Fred, I think the school board chairman or the superintendent, he's the one that's out of touch with reality, thinking that there was just going to be a cream puff deal and they spend enough of the taxpayers' money they can shove it down our throats and convince us that black is white and green is blue. But I think just the idea of buying $1 million hunk of land, which would tell us then that after you buy $1 million worth of land, where there's no land that's worth $1 million in Eau Claire, unless you're, like I say, tearing down the London Square Mall or something.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they had planned, but that's probably the only piece of land I know would be worth $1 million right now. It just didn't sit true with people, Fred, and they didn't go into it more about where this $1 million worth of land was. But be that as it may, buying this $1 million worth of land meant that there was another referendum coming down the pike for a $20-30 million high school, or $15 million, or whatever it costs for a high school these days. So we would have had 3 high schools to take care of.
Yes.
And that's all into a declining enrollment. So it just didn't add up.
Right.
But, so I think, once again, the Leader Telegram has been on the wrong side of an issue. And they keep pulling out their worn old statements about how everybody's going to suffer if we don't give in to these tax and spend liberals. But I've never seen a liberal yet that didn't say, just give me more of your tax dollars and I can fix the problem. And that is the problem, thinking that they can fix the problem, because they've been trying to fix it ever since January of 1961, when JFK said, give me $100 billion and I'll fix your problem. And now it's over $1 trillion, Fred.
Yes.
And they haven't fixed anything. They've caused 2 problems for every one they've solved. And they're still asking us for more tax dollars to fix last year's problems. So money just doesn't fix everything, Freddie boy. Well, what do you got there before we take this very important call, Fred?
Bill Clinton's political guru stepped down as chief political strategist on the eve of the Democratic National Convention upon revelations of his tryst with a high-priced Washington call girl became public in becoming a Catholic, reported Steve Dunleavy for CNN's wire service.
Huh. So one of Clinton's cronies is jump ship, huh?
Yes.
Okay, Freddie, well, we're putting this referendum to bed along with the arena and the library and the 0.5% sales tax, and hopefully it'll sleep. A long sleep, Fred.
Right.
6 foot under. And I'll leave you with these parting words from Lee Hansen. Without a new school, the 130 Park students would be bused to other schools. Well, Lee, you were trying to build into a declining enrollment, so the word is consolidate.
Yes.
Just consolidate. You don't need the extra space if you're going to have less students. That stands to reason. Okay, we better take a call here, Freddie boy, on line 1. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Oh, I think I did something to the television screen.
That's Roy over there. He's been nipping on the Flavin Pop again.
Oh, he should be ashamed of himself.
I know.
He made me
By the
feel
way,
like
the program.
I had destroyed your image. I was just kind of hoping that you might change the subject.
Yep, we are. We just did.
Ah, you know, you're right. I hadn't thought of that.
Uh-huh.
Well, thank Roy for that.
Sounds like you're a little static. Is it stormy out there tonight?
Don't know. Haven't noticed.
We haven't been out of this room in years. It's hard to tell what the weather's like up there.
I believe you. You know, if your friend Dennis the Menace Barry wants to take on a new cause and win, I would actually make a suggestion for something that I think would be a terrific cause for a man like that. Perhaps he could help to fight the inner bypass.
Oh yeah, that fight's been going on for years.
Yeah, I know. See, are you aware that when Governor Thompson came into Eau Claire and he went and made a nice little speech to the Eau Claire City Council, he made a comment that was quite astonishing. One of the things that he pointed out was that a large percentage of his cabinet they actually had ties to the city of Eau Claire. And he made the comment that just about anything that the city or the area wanted, they were going to get. So that kind of makes me feel that the Eau Claire City Council had the state government on their side when they fought so hard to get the inner bypass approved. I think they had some friends in very high places, some friends in Madison.
Yes, well, they also had certain people owned that land too.
Well, that I don't know anything about because, you know, that's kind of a mystery, kind of a secret. That never really comes out very much.
Well, I think you'll find that some very well-placed people own that land where the inner bypass is going, and they stand to be rewarded handsomely for their many years of speculation.
Am I to assume that you actually have an idea who owns the land? I won't ask who, but I'm just...
Well, yeah, I've heard rumors over the years. When the outer bypass, inner bypass was hot and heavy, there were some names thrown around of possible people that did own land in that area where the inner bypass was. Mm-hmm. And of course, then the speculation got to going to who owned the land where the outer bypass wanted to go. So there's always someone speculating.
I thought these decisions weren't supposed to be based on these political considerations, though. For instance, who might profit from the sale of land. And also promises perhaps made by high-up officials to friends back home, that sort of thing. I thought things like that weren't supposed to come into it.
Well, they unfortunately do. What do you think about it, Fred? You've been around for 20, 25 years.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah.
You know, you should get Fred to talk more because, you know, he just sits there and you should bring him in more into the conversation because he's got a lot of fans out here in TV land.
He does a lot of studying. It's hard to get him away from the books there.
Yeah.
He's always reading. And
You've got to watch that quiet type.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate your calling, and thanks a lot, and continue to watch.
Oh, I thank you for changing the subject. Anyway,
Okay.
will you do me a favor, by the way, before you leave to go home for the night?
What's that?
Will you check and make sure that the window cam is focused on the railroad tracks, just in case passing trains go by?
All right.
Okay,
We'll
thank
see if
you.
we can do that. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, now, Roy, you're going to be able to get a close-up of this here? This here was the 1943 meeting that Fred
No, it's
attended.
not 1943. That was 1963.
Can you get that?
1964.
Can you get a close-up of that, Fred? This was in Argentina. Roy, you got a close-up of that? Or what? You think you can get a close-up of that, Roy? Well, while Roy's working on that, well, that's not very close, Roy.
Uh-huh.
We used to be able to get tight shots of these things. That's it? Okay, he's working on getting a closer one up of that. And this is a very historic picture here, 1943 and...
1964.
There it is, 1943, Buenos Aires, Argentina. And you'll see some very important people there. Now, well, I guess this would be on your left there. That there is Adolf Hitler in his shorts. And then next to him is Paul Harvey. In the middle there you have Joey Bishop. Then right next to Joey Bishop you got Fred. And then right next to Fred you got Frank Sinatra. Now this is where they carved the deal to build Las Vegas. Back in 1943 down in Argentina there. And of course the rest is history.
Yeah.
Okay, all right there. Now Freddie, have we talked about who the sponsor of the Tonight Show is?
Do we have a sponsor?
Yes, we do. We got a brand new sponsor.
Oh,
Now, Roy's going to have to get a close-up of it here.
That place is going out of business.
Can you get a close-up of our new sponsor here, Roy? Of course, Roy's working on it there. But our new sponsor is Flavin's
Stop.
Pre-Chewed Frozen Food for those too busy to eat. And of course, you don't want to get too close there now, Roy. You're missing it there. There we are. Flavin's Pre-Chewed Frozen Food for those too busy to eat. Of course, we got one. We took this one out of the freezer just before the show started there. Of course, there's what it that's what it looks like. See, and now what this is this food has been. This comes from a little factory right outside of that little town over there, Mugambo, Haiti. And over there, Fred, what they do is they chew up this food, and then they put it in there. I guess they would spit it into there, and then it's quick frozen, Fred.
Yeah.
And then it's rushed up here from Haiti
Yes.
to the grocery stores all over the country.
Yes. And
then
you
all you
can't
do-
buy it in any one.
All you do is throw this in the microwave, Fred, and then you don't even have to chew it. You just swallow it.
Yeah.
It's for those people too busy to chew their food, too busy to eat.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Flavin's pre-chewed frozen food for those too busy to eat. Of course, this one here is French fries, a banana, a hamburger, some cookies, looks like some tomatoes in the background there, a little bit of salami and cheese. And of course, that's already been pre-chewed, Fred,
Yeah.
for your eating pleasure. Flavin's pre-chewed frozen food. And there you have it, Fred, our new sponsor.
Yeah.
All right there, Freddie boy, what do you got there?
Well, I was just looking at the votes that were made here, and I got this a while back, put out by the National the Christian Defense Fund, and that's put out by a well-known organization. And Congressman Newman voted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 votes for. So did this fella here.
Okay, well, what's the bottom line of all that mean?
Well, that saves us money. The people who vote for this, and the ones who don't, we had Congressman Kind voted twice on that.
That's amazing how they'll vote like that.
We have Congressman or Senator Cole and Senator Feingold voted twice with that, and 3 times Cole.
Huh, that's amazing. Well, here's a nice little story. What's your barcode? There's a new trend hitting the dance floors of the world. Raving is out, scanning is in. Kids are now wearing barcode, stick-on tattoos, which other dancers use special pencil-sized scanners to read. Sexy come-on messages are coded in. Messages like, lick my tonsils, or let's go to bed, I'm ready and willing. They're available at the bar, and they cost $3.50 for a pack of 5. One Wire report quotes a DJ in Tokyo, "It's a great way to break the ice." So I think that is just a little bit of pre-Mark of the Beast type of a thing going on there, Freddie. And then before we take another call, here's an interesting little article comes out of Los Angeles, Fred. Police in Los Angeles had better luck with a robbery suspect who just couldn't control himself during a lineup. When detectives asked each man to repeat the words, "Give me all your money or I'll shoot," the man shouted, "That's not what I said." So there you have it, Fred.
Yeah.
Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi. I was watching your show and I had a question for you.
All right.
Wouldn't you be kind of afraid that thing's going to take a dump on the back of your head?
Well, is he talking to you, Fred? Okay, Freddie, here's another one for you. A delicatessen in Germany is offering a reward of 110 pounds of salami for information leading to the arrest of whoever has been robbing the premises. The deli owner, whose shop has been robbed 9 times, explained that he no longer has enough cash for a more conventional reward. "All I have left is salami." So he's giving that for his reward, Fred.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing how people will do those kind of things? Okay, Fred, and then I just noticed here lately that the top 40 billionaires were mentioned, or top 40 richest paid entertainers, Fred. The 40 best paid entertainers on Forbes magazine ranking. And of course, you'd have number 1 would be Steven Spielberg, made $313 million last year. George Lucas made $241 million. Oprah Winfrey made $201 million, Fred. Then somebody named Michael Crichton, don't know him, made $102 million. Then the Beatles, after all these years, came in 5th with $98 million. And then that little guy there, that one little show called Seinfeld, he brought in $94 million, Jerry Seinfeld. David Copperfield, the magician, brought in $84 million. Stephen King wrote all those mystery or the scary books. He brought in a cool $84 million. Tom Cruise brought in $82 million, and rounding out the top 10 was Arnold Schwarzenegger with $74 million. This is all in a 12-month period, each one of them. Then at the bottom of the totem pole, number 40 is Bill Cosby, $36 million. Think those guys got enough to go around, Fred?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then there you have it, Freddie. We better take this call here. I think Roy was saying there's a call out there. And then we'll take that, your next article there. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I was just wondering why you guys call your show the Cow Report. I don't get a chance to watch it very much. I was just wondering.
Huh, we got a little static on the line. Is it raining out there?
Oh, it's not raining out here.
Huh. Must be just storming a little bit. Well, Fred, what does that stand for anyway? You've been with the show now for
Christians of Wisconsin.
You've been with the show for what now, 20, 25 years?
Yeah.
And of course the program is brought to you by not only Flavin's pre-chewed frozen foods
Yes.
for those too busy to eat,
Yes.
but also by our
Flavin
flagship
slop.
our flagship product, Flavin Pop.
And they've gone bankrupt.
And of course they built this fine studio around us here and donated the money for that and the
Yeah,
plants.
they didn't donate
all the-
anything. They
all the
couldn't
pictures
couldn't donate a dollar,
Of course, there's only one place where you can find Flavin Pop.
and that is not in Eau Claire.
Besides Finer Funeral Homes, there's one place, and that's down in the corner
That's
of
not that place is out of business.
Menominee and Ferry Street. It's been there for many,
That place
many
is
years now.
Out of business,
Many years now. they've
and
been
you
selling.
never bought anything in there.
Now, you know, Fred, this has been used for many things, including
know.
drinking.
Yeah.
Flavin Pop. The thinking man's drink. Okay, there you have it, Fred. Now, did you hear the one about the woman down in Florida who was arrested after allegedly pelting her boyfriend with frozen chicken legs, a telephone, and a circular saw when he came home late?
No.
Well, that's what he did. And then there was the one about a gang of Muslim youths paraded through the streets of Lagos, Nigeria this week to protest an eclipse of the moon. The religious zealots harassed women and customers in hotels and beer parlors, blaming the sins of the infidels for the eclipse the night before. So there you have that part of it, Fred. Which one of these is newer here? Looks like this one is, Fred. We got kind of backed up here. Last week we had, or 2 weeks ago, we had that special on the school board. Okay, Fred, you know, we always like to report on things that are happening with cows out there. And this article came out, probably a little over a week ago now, but it was from Michigan. A police inspector says the discovery of a severed cow's head at a McDonald's restaurant in suburban Detroit may be the work of a satanic cult. Police are looking for a van that was seen leaving the parking lot shortly before a customer found the head on top of a two-way ordering speaker in the restaurant's drive-thru. Redford Township Inspector Donald Mehall says today police have no solid leads and don't know whether the van was involved. Mehall also says the possible satanic connection is only a theory, but he's assigned a detective to the case. Police were called to the McDonald's workers Sunday night after a customer made the grisly discovery, and they removed the head and continued serving the other parts of the cow.
Yeah.
All right there, Roy, we better take this call on line one. And then we better get to that article there. What's that on again?
Fast track to the wreck of the GOP.
All right. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, I like that Flavin Pop product there. That looks pretty good.
The pre-chewed frozen food?
That doesn't look too bad, too. Wouldn't mind having some of that.
Now, you'll be able to get that down at the corner of Ferry and
Yeah,
Menominee
there's
Street.
no
Real soon.
store there.
Excellent, excellent. Hey, can I tell you a duck hunting joke this season? It's clean, trust me.
What happened?
Okay, I got a duck hunting joke. This guy walks into a bar and he's got a duck on his head. And the bartender says, "There's something I can do for you." The duck says, "Yeah, can you get this guy off my butt?"
Huh. Did you figure that one out, Fred?
Yeah.
Okay, here, Freddie. Here's the Army's testing a satellite killer. Army to test a satellite killer. So what did you have there on Fast Track?
Well, this is from the Wanderer, which is printed in St. Paul, a Catholic paper, and Bill Clinton called a special session of Congress in 1943 to win approval of the Michigan General Agreement of Tariffs and Trade. Got really one feature in particular that trade really stuck in the craw of the conservatives.
Huh. Well, that's amazing how they can do that.
They did.
Of course, they want to expand that. Well, have you heard the one about the missing minutes there on the tape, Fred? Have you heard the one about the missing minutes?
What are they caught?
Well, that's really, really nice there, Fred. We really appreciate that. Okay, have you heard the one about the missing minutes on the tapes there, Fred?
Yes.
What have you heard about that?
Well, you told me that it was missing.
All right. It looks to me like they were videotaping all of these meetings that Clinton was having there with his coffees. And I guess now history is repeating itself, because on one of the tapes there was a 60-second audio gap. That was pointed out by the Republican National Chairman Jim Nicholson, said in a statement, "What we may have here is a deliberate cover-up and a stonewalling not just of the Justice Department, but of congressional committees as well." Nicholson singled out a 60-second audio gap in one of the scenes, suggesting it may have shown controversial fundraiser John Wong making a campaign contribution solicitation. But the White House said it was an editing error, and the full version would be released later today. Now, where did we hear all that stuff about missing footage and tapes and stuff? Seems like it harkens back to the old
about,
Abraham Nixon days.
Yes.
Yes, when they had a missing 22 seconds or whatever, and all these left-wing radical newspaper reporters just pounced on that with all four of their paws,
Yes.
with claws showing, and just beat old Nixon into the ground. But are they going to do that with Clinton now, with this 60-second gap? But the White House said it was an editing error. I've been in editing TV for about over 12 years now, and editing means you're cutting things out and you're splicing together the missing parts. And so editing means that somebody has been manipulating these tapes already. And the full version would be released later today. So why wasn't the full version released the other day? Well, there you have it, Fred. What do you got there?
Well, I'm looking at the Religious Freedom Survey, and got students' rights. A ninth grader in Tennessee received a 0 for writing a research paper on Jesus. Other students wrote on witchcraft, reincarnation, magic, and other topics, but the paper on Jesus was returned, not an appropriate thing to do in a public school.
Huh. And where did that happen at?
In Tennessee.
Right down there in the Bible Belt. That's amazing. Well, you know, Fred, the First Lady plans a long road trip, according to CNN News Time today, in the All Politics section. The First Lady heads to Panama this week and will have made her way to Latin America, Ireland, and the breakaway republics around Russia before year's end. And while her journeys abroad usually brim with concerns for the world's women and children, her fall travels will focus on the expansion of democracy. You know, this is a rather lengthy article, and I won't go all the way through it, Fred, but you know, as I was reading through it, all of a sudden it dawned on me. Most people are probably thinking, yeah, she's skipping the country and just going to take a long trip and just kind of stay away from all the problems that are happening here with President Clinton and Paula Jones and all of the Whitewater hearings, and Vincent Foster, and just one thing after another, and some of his buddies from Arkansas getting sentenced to prison, and it just looked like she was leaving the sinking ship here to take off now that she's got her daughter safely tucked away in college out in California. And Bill is proven to have been a cheater. He's cheated on her several times, and they called them bimbo eruptions, but basically what he was doing was committing adultery while his wife was home raising Chelsea, or whatever she was doing, rallying or protesting at her National Organization of Women meetings or whatever. But anyway, and then all of a sudden it dawned on me, she's not running from nothing. She's traveling the world, gearing up for a presidential bid in the year 2000, Fred.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton is going to run for president in the year 2000 so that they can keep their dynasty going.
Yes.
She's going to run against Albert,
Yes.
Sir Albert Gore. That's what's up, Freddie. And she could very well get the nomination. She's out there looking like she's a world traveler and knows foreign policy, and she's looking presidential. That's what it's all about. Don't be fooled.
There's line one.
Go ahead, call her on the air.
Hey, I was just wondering, did someone make that hat for you, or did you go out and buy it somewhere?
My brother makes these hats out of roadkill raccoons.
Oh, wow.
And
that's pretty cool. Do you think you could, like, make me one?
Uh-huh.
well, we'll see what we can do. I think he charges about $175 for them.
That much? Just to wear something like that on your head?
Yeah. Well, it's still alive, though, see.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Goodbye. Okay, Freddie. That's why it costs so much, Fred. You got to keep feeding it. Okay, Fred, have you heard this one?
Yes.
About they're testing satellite killers with laser beams. You probably
Yes.
already heard that one, so I won't bring that one up. 2 men attempting to smuggle exotic animals from Mexico were apprehended in Eagle Pass, Texas. Prosecutors said that Paul Lynham and John Nelson hid 4 snakes each in their groin area and their boots and smuggled them across the border. What do you think about that, Fred?
I don't know why they would do that.
Then have you heard the one about the Illinois man pretending to have a gun, kidnapped a motorist, and forced him to drive to 2 different automatic teller machines? The kidnapper then proceeded to withdraw money from his own bank accounts.
Yeah.
Wonder why he did that. And in the Netherlands, workers moving a 75 million year old dinosaur skeleton for a museum exhibition accidentally dropped the crate, breaking the fossil into 188 pieces.
Yes.
So somebody had to run out and get some super glue for that real quick, Freddie, because it had to be
Yes.
set up for the exhibition there real quick. And then there finally, Fred, here's one from West Virginia. Judge Joe Troisi apparently got so mad at a defendant in his courtroom last June that he stepped off the bench, took off his robe, and bit the man on the nose. Now the West Virginia State Supreme Court is debating his future. As expected, lawyers for the wacky jurist have their own version of events. The two were face-to-face, says attorney Cynthia Gusky, and Troisi's mouth made contact with the man's nose. And that's all that happened, Fred.
Yeah.
And that's it. Well, I wonder who's winning that football game tonight, Fred. You got a bet in that on Las Vegas there?
No.
Okay, we got another picture here, Fred.
I
You
know.
can probably tell us what this one is. This is back in 1989.
When I was county commander or state commander.
And it's you holding the American flag there, and of course Roy's getting a close-up of that. Of course, in the meantime, don't forget to get out there and buy Flavin's chewed frozen foods, Fred.
Yes.
And well, we can't get a close-up any closer than that. Maybe Roy can. Roy can do many things. Of course, we're speaking of Roy Rogers Hoff.
Yes.
And there he's still working to get that in there. But that's Fred back many, many years ago. I think this is 1937.
No, that's
Marching down Eau Claire Street.
not. No, that was at the City Hall.
Is that it, Roy? There it is. 1937, marching down Eau Claire Street, holding the American flag with his American Legion hat on. I think that guy next to him is Norbert Wilson, who used to live in Eau Claire back about 50 years ago. And there you have it. You're looking pretty good there, Fred.
Yes.
Okay there, Roy. What do you know out there? Roy says we have another call backed up on line 1, and we'll read this one real quick. In Harrisburg, Illinois, a jury has awarded $900,000 to 4 female cashiers after they were strip searched by managers looking for a missing $50. And the worst part of it is, after it was over, they had to put those stupid uniforms back on. Okay, go ahead. Well, I guess we're on the wrong channel there, Roy. Roy. Well, they must have got cold feet. So what do you have there, Fred?
A Nebraska student was prohibited from reading his Bible silently during his free time, or even to open his Bible in school.
How come?
Well, the teacher stopped him.
Fred, did we bring this up on the last show about the possibility that Princess Diana was assassinated?
I don't know.
This comes out of a internet news magazine called Conspiracy Nation. And it says, in the last few days I have interviewed, this is Sherman Skolnick out of Chicago, I have interviewed extensively well-informed United Kingdom, French, and other journalists, and I promised never to use their names because of the nature of what was discussed. They told me that many of the distinguished journalists in the United Kingdom are aware from their own reliable sources in key places in the government and elsewhere that British intelligence had assassinated Princess Diana. They went over details of the specifics of how they, as journalists from their sources, know about the technical information on how the assassination was carried out. What do you think about that, Fred? Do you think that's plausible? That Princess Diana was assassinated?
Could be.
And it says the journalist spoke with the journalists I spoke with generally agree with what I found out from other sources about how Diana was assassinated. Apparently another car, a supposedly decoy car, which was to protect her, in fact carried agents of British intelligence. It came up behind the Mercedes which Diana and the others were in and hit it in some way, and there was already an arrangement through others that a chemical slick was put on the roadway within the tunnel. Ahead of the slick, a heavy construction truck on signal backed into the tunnel and dropped or placed an obstruction of a very heavy nature in the roadway. So any which way it turned out, the Diana car could not have gotten away. Thereafter, British intelligence planted disinformation and continues to do so throughout the world. For example, the car came from a junkyard. It was formerly stolen. It's a defective car. The driver was drunk. The speedometer was stuck at 120. The car was going over 100 miles an hour. There's been a flood of these fake stories promoted worldwide by British intelligence, in which the CIA has seen to it that American press replicates these stories. Leading journalists in the UK agree with stories by me and others that Diane was assassinated. And the simple reason for the murder is British intelligence is pledged to protect the monarchy. The monarchy was not going to have a new stepfather for the heir to the throne, Prince William. They weren't going to have a Muslim as a stepfather. So that's why they did her in. And it also says here that she was 3 months pregnant. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, Doc, I'm really interested in this roadkill hat thing. I'd really like to put that on, but, really I want one of those really tall ones where it looks like you got a tree growing out of your head. Does he charge by the inch or does he charge by the foot?
Who, Fred?
No.
I don't know. We'll have to take that under consideration. So when you put it all together, Fred, under their rules, the British intelligence was justified in wiping out these people out for the purpose of the monarchy, protecting the realm and national security, and making England safe for democracy and the kingdom of Prince Charles and all that other stuff, because he's going to be king. So
I'm going to call a meeting The meeting closed there.
And we got any new business there, Freddie?
No.
Okay. But if you think Freddie's been getting carried away with that, just write to him. Or just call him at 1-800-NUTSY-CUCKOO. And I guess with that, we're going to say adios, amigos and amiguettes. We'll see you right here again next time on the Old Cow Report.
Arrivederci Roma.